Hey everybody, welcome to episode 57 of the Fiberista Files. Today is Saturday, December 3rd. Hi! How have you been? It's been a while since I've podcasted. It's about 2.5 weeks, a week and a half. I think it was, I was supposed to podcast during Thanksgiving vacation and I didn't, sorry. Um, it's been busy. It's been good, but busy. And so I have quite a bit to catch you up on, so why don't I get going? All right, week in review. I had a fantastic Thanksgiving vacation. I had 5 wonderful days in the mountains. It snowed about 10 inches on Wednesday. I went home Tuesday afternoon, got there before the snowstorm. It snowed pretty heavily for the whole day. It was also very windy. It was a true winter storm. We don't always have snow by Thanksgiving, but when we do, it's usually sticks. We got 10 inches down on the coast too, but it's melted. Most of it's gone up home too because shortly after the storm, we had 60-degree temperatures, which even in the 50s, like it was on Wednesday on December 1st, or Thursday, December 1st, Thursday. It's not unheard of, but on Thursday, we did tie our record high in the state. We were warmer than Florida. We were warmer than Mississippi. It's been kind of crazy. So we had a snowstorm on Wednesday, then Thursday was good Thanksgiving, and then that weekend it like warmed up like crazy. And I'll take it. I'll take it. If that means the roads are dry and there's no ice and I don't have to worry about going off the road, I will take it. We did not go down to my parents for Thanksgiving. I really just wanted some time at home, around my things, around my cats, on my couch, watching Christmas movies and knitting. And that's exactly how it went. I did watch some of the immortal Christmas classics, those being Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, Jim Henson movie, and Love Actually, which, aside from the porn pieces, is actually quite lovely. If you haven't seen Love Actually, you should. I would not watch it with your children because of the aforementioned porn section. But Love Actually is a great Christmas movie, and the guy who plays Victor in the Underworld series, the big, heavy, nasty, scary vampire, plays this like has-been Christmas singer, and he sings this song called Christmas Is All Around. Love it. My husband hates that song because it gets stuck in his head, so I sing it all the time. I feel it in my fingers. It makes me happy. I should probably mention here that I'm a little bit hyper. I had coffee. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. My husband is here with me down on the coast, and I also now have tea. I have Lipton's black tea. It's their pyramid tea, which has those pyramid-shaped tea bags. It's the Bavarian... Crap, I don't remember. Something Bavarian. It has... it's very fragrant. It has hints of raspberry, currant, and blueberry in it, so it's a very fruity black tea. Oh, it smells so good. I wish you had smell-o-vision. Although, like, you smell it and you get fruit smell, and then you pull it away from you, and it smells like pipe tobacco. Not smoked pipe tobacco, but unsmoked pipe tobacco. My dad used to smoke a pipe. It's just a very interesting smell. You really don't want to watch me smell my tea. I'm sorry. Okay, let me check my notes and get back on task. Hyper Heather is kind of crazy Heather. Sorry. This would be why my husband went to Ellsworth to go shopping. Okay, I've been writing on Christmas gifts. I'll show you those when I get to knitting. I did get an order of yarn. I was waiting for a fiber order, and it did come the Monday before Thanksgiving, so I got it when I went home Tuesday afternoon. And I didn't even open the box because I can't do anything up north because all of my dye supplies and everything are down here. So I got home Sunday night, and I opened it up to put everything away and realized that they back ordered my sock yarn. I have the silver maple sock that I ordered, but they were out of the sugar maple sock that I ordered. So I ordered 2 or 3 cones, so that's more than $100 worth of yarn that I didn't get. That was frustrating. I kind of just put everything back in the box and had to walk away because I was really looking forward to using the sugar maple sock yarn to test some new colorways. Sugar maple sock yarns like my palette. The colors look most like they do in my, I have a fiber on my nose. Sorry. The colors look the most closely to what I have in my head. If I'm testing out a colorway on something, a new dye or a new combination of colors, I try to start it on the sugar maple sock first because that's the most accurate it's going to be for me, for the way my brain works. So I was really frustrated to not get my sock yarn because I wanted it desperately to test some colorways. Didn't happen. So I'm just going to make do, I guess, with what I've got. All right, so that was my week in review. School's been good. School's been busy. So busy. But yeah, I had 5 days off, so coming back and working 5 days in a row was difficult. Okay, knitting. I always have said that spinning and knitting are the first to go when my business gets busy and when school gets busy. I find now that when I'm in the mountains, I have nothing, because I can't work on the business stuff, I have nothing to do but knit. And it's fabulous. I love it so, so much. So I banged out a whole bunch of knitting. For me, I'm not as productive as a lot of people that you may watch, but for me, I got quite a knitting done. Now, I'm going to turn you around and show you my deadline knits here. Well, I know I have a hair on my nose somewhere. So here's my deadline knitting. I have the sock yarn sweater and the baby booties were done and completed before the November 16th deadline. I decided not to do the baby socks, and the Maiwa shawl is a fail. But the Maiwa shawl is just for me. It's not a Christmas gift, so that can take a back burner right now. I'm currently working on this next section, which says Cthulhu mittens, also known as Cthulhu, depending on how you pronounce it, the octopus or the anglerfish, and the French press slippers, and those are due by December 15th. Now, I did have something else that came up, and that was that I'm going to SSK, the Super Summer Knit Away, in June, and they're doing a bunch of knit-alongs, and the knit-alongs offer you an opportunity to get more tickets with which to try and get door prizes there. I am supremely competitive, and I needed to participate in this, what is it? Knit-along. Wow. So the knit-along rules were it had to be a Wendy Johnson pattern, it had to be done by the end of November, and it had to be knit out of, or it could also be knit out of yarn from one of the vendors, of which I'm going to be one, or fiber that was spun and then knit from one of the vendors. So I don't have any of my own hand spun, so I decided to take just a test skein of sock yarn that I had that was just sort of marinating in my stash, not doing anything. This is the new Saris colorway, and it's the sugar maple sock yarn. What I did was Wendy Johnson's Poor Poets mitts from her new book, Wendy Knits Lace. These are knit on US 2s, I think. And you can see that they pull differently. This one has a chunk of maroon and a chunk of gold. And this one kind of stripes. I don't know why I did that. I don't care. I like the difference in them. I like them. So I knit the mitts, and then I decided that these could be a Christmas gift as well. So these are going to be a Christmas gift. They're going to my sister-in-law. She doesn't watch the podcast, so it's good. I think she'll like those. They have not been blocked yet. I don't know, honestly, if I'm going to block them. That looks pretty good to me. I feel like because it's lace, it should be blocked. I probably will. I probably am too afraid to not block the lace. Like, if it looks like this now, what will it look like afterwards? It's not a picture lace. It's just a simple stitch pattern. So it creates these little, like, chunks and things. So I was okay using the highly variegated yarn. These weren't originally going to be for my sister-in-law, but when I was knitting with the yarn, she was like, I love that yarn. And I was like, I know. Thanks. And she's like, no, I love those colors. And I said, okay, I hear you. So the mitts became for her. They did make the deadline. I was able to use these for the Super Summer Knit Along. I was also able to use them for the Dramatic Knits podcast, Race to the Finished Object, for November. And I used it for the Knit One Heart 2 mitten or stuff for your hands knit along that they're doing right now, which goes until the end of December. So nothing like triple dipping, in sock yarn that I wasn't going to sell anyway. I might do another pair of these. These were actually very, very quick. I think those took only just a couple days. Each mitt took me about a day to do, with some I think it took over the course of 4 days, but the third day and the second day and the fourth day was just finishing weaving in ends, doing the ribbing, doing the thumb. The actual bulk of the mitt was done in about a day. They're very fast knits. And I did magic loop those on US 2.75 millimeter needles. I used the bamboo KA needles that I use for the rainbow sock. The other thing that I've been knitting, let me check this off. Check, check. Check, check. If you are my brother and you're watching this podcast, look away. Look away for the next 5 minutes. So my brother John, I've shown you the pattern that I'm making the Call of Cthulhu mittens, or Cthulhu, depending on how you pronounce it. And I don't know why I do this to myself. First of all, I'm using Knit Picks palette for the first time. This one is Aurora Heather, and the lighter one is Tarragon. They go really well together. That bottom one is a little bit more of a emerald green than you're seeing, but they go really well together. And this is the first mitt. This is the back of the hand. You can see a little Cthulhu there. Look at him. Look at his tentacles. Isn't he cute for an elder god who's going to eat your soul? Here's that. Male's here. And on the back is another little Cthulhu. He looks kind of like a predator, but we're not going to get into that. And then it's just simple 1x1 patterning here. You can see, though, my color work is rough. There's sections where it doesn't look very good at all. I have tensioning issues. You can see on this that, I think my floats are too tight because, this is poked out and the light green spots are poked out where I've pulled the dark green behind it. So I'm hoping that blocking will fix that, because this is not my best work. It is my best work, but it's not good. And I am going to have an afterthought thumb here on the palm. You can see this is where the thumb stitches are going to be, and the tentacles are there. Now, color work is difficult enough, especially when I haven't done it before. Clearly I'm not an expert on color knitting. But I also decided to do it top down instead of bottom up like the directions, and I reversed the colors. You can see that the Cthulhu here is dark and the areas surrounding it are light, and I went with a light Cthulhu and dark surrounding areas. When you're reading across a specific row and it goes on the pattern, it says white, white, black, white, white, black, you have to here go dark, dark, light, dark, dark, light. It's just enough that if I'm not paying close enough attention, I completely confuse the crap out of myself. Because knitting on a deadline is not troublesome enough, knitting with a new technique isn't problematic enough, I had to go whole hog and make it completely as difficult as possible. That's how I roll. Anyway, that's the first mitten. I slurped my tea, I'm sorry. I have just this much left of the patterning, and then I've got to decide if I'm going to do ribbing or not. I probably will, just because my brother has pretty bad carpal tunnel, so any warmth around his wrists in cold weather is good. And then I'll cast on the second set of mitts. I have all of this yarn left over from the first one mitten. I may not need the second of each of these that I knit at all. Let's hope. That would be fantastic. Then I could use it for something else. But I did buy 2 balls of each color so that I would have them if I need them. So that's what I've been knitting. I'm sorry I didn't get to show you the baby booties. I gifted them before I had a chance. And you've seen the sweater too many times already. So, okay, next up is as soon as the Cthulhu mittens are done, I'm going to knit a pair of French press slippers. Oh, I completely forgot to tell you that the Cthulhu mittens pattern is by Diana Stafford. Sorry. And those are being knit on US 4. I have no idea what size millimeters these are. They rubbed off. US 4 needles. US 4 is bigger than you would normally use for fingering weight, but it is stranded, so the inside of the mitten is still very, very warm. Sorry. Focus. The French press slippers are going to be knit out of Lion Brand yarn fisherman's wool in the, I think it's the oatmeal colorway. Oatmeal, yep, in the oatmeal colorway. This is 100% virgin wool with a little bit of lanolin in it, which is funny because I can't, it doesn't feel like there's lanolin in it, but it says there is, so I believe them. French press slippers are a felted pattern. The Yarn Harlot has blogged about them. They're a very popular pattern. I'm hoping that they're easy and quick because, crap, I have to get this done by December 15th, which is like, what, 12 days away? And these are the buttons that I'm going to use for the slippers. There's like a little tortoiseshell texture underneath of that light section. So this is going to go with this. There's going to be little buttons and the slippers. These are for my sister-in-law, or will be once they're done. Not the same sister-in-law that the mitts were for, but a different sister-in-law. And then after that, I'm going to knit a dickie. My brother, who the dickie is for, is going, the one who's married to this girl. Not this brother. 2 brothers. I have like 4, but anyway. He's in the Border Patrol, and he wants something warm here because a lot of the time they go out on snowmobiles because they're in northern Maine and on the border, and so they do a lot of snowmobiling up and down the border, and he gets cold where his coat doesn't zip tight but is underneath his helmet. So this little piece of him gets cold, and he said he wanted something warm to protect him right here. That's a dickie. He doesn't want a scarf. He doesn't want anything that has to wind. He wants him just to pull over his head and tuck underneath his uniform. That's a dickie. He refuses to call it that. I think he called it, I don't know if he called it a cowl or if he called it something else. My husband calls them, cover your children's ears. He calls them foreskins because they go over your head and only the top of your head pokes out. There's no good name for it. I don't know what to call it other than I'm going to be using Elizabeth Zimmerman's pattern from Knitting Around, the Tricky Dicky pattern. And I'm going to be using Cascade Yarns 220 Superwash so my brother can wash it and dry it if he needs to and not damage it. As soon as I get the book, which I had to order off Amazon, this will be also cast on. This should be a very quick knit. This should take a day or 2 max. Yeah. What do you call it? Could you tell me? Is there a politically correct thing that you can call the piece that comes around and hangs in front and back? Because I'd much rather call it that than dickie or anything else. So up first, okay. There has been no spinning, which sucks. My spinning wheel is covered in dust. The drive band's off it. It's sad and lonely over here, right beside me. I did finish writing up that Southdown post. I just have to add pictures to it and post it. I will try and do that as soon as I'm done podcasting while I wait for this sucker to upload. Because I want to get onto that Navajo churro. That's going to take me like an hour to spin, maybe. Because it's going to spin I think it's going to spin much more thickly and quickly. So, I got to get there. Got to take some time, make some time. Okay, now on to the traditional parts. I'm 20 minutes in. Sorry. You hate the spoon sound. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people that has to constantly re-stir my tea. Okay. Dye pots. There's not been as much dyeing as I would have liked. I'll talk about it more in processes, but I did do some dyeing, and I'll show you what I've got accomplished. There was one thing that I dyed that I'll talk about too that I sent out. Give me just a minute to talk about that. So, I have dyed some bulky yarn, a teeny bit of worsted, and a single braid of fiber. I was just kind of messing around, playing with some stuff one evening, and this was sort of the results of that. So, let me start with the bulky. 2 colorways that you have seen before. This is a new one for this base. This is the bulky yarn that is the Basswood Bulky. It's 100% Highland Peruvian wool. It's next to skin soft and has a little bit of sheen to it, which is really interesting because I didn't think Peruvian Highland wool did, but it's beautiful yarn, nice and thick and chunky. This is actually, oh wow, too bright. Oh crap. This is the Poetic colorway, which you have seen in Superwash Merino Tensile Fiber quite a bit. It has, let me get the unrescaled one. It has this violet purple, dark gray, and black. And I just saturate the yarn as much as I can. You can see how thick and bulky that is. Come on, focus. Not on my hangnail either. Don't focus on my head. There we go. Isn't that a nice, thick, bulky yarn? So this is the unrescaled one. And then when you reskein it, something happens to the dark gray that to me makes it have a bit of a greenish cast. I love it. And the black looks a little brown, but it is black. A single skein would be enough to knit a starving artist. It would be more than enough to knit a starving musician. So if you've got a quick Christmas knit that you need to do, the Starving Artist or Starving Musician pattern by Laura Linneman would be a great Christmas gift. So this is Poetic. You've also seen the colorway Blue Skies and Buttercups, which I've done in Polwarth several times, and I've done in Superwash BFL. This again is in the bulky. This is it unrescaled. Starts with the yellow, goes to the green, nice minty green, spring green, and then ends in the sky blue. Rescaled, so you can see kind of how the colors will line up with each other. They're all coordinating. They're really happy. This is a very happy yarn. If you're suffering from seasonal affective disorder, this yarn might help you. I'm not a doctor. I'm just totally talking off the cuff here. But happy. I love it. I never know when I try a colorway in a new base how it's going to turn out. I really like the way the colors take up in the Basswood Bulky. It's very happy. And then I did a new colorway too. The new colorway started by accident because I was trying to get the dark gray to do the Poetic, and I accidentally grabbed dark brown. And I have dark brown dye, but I couldn't find in my index of colorways any colorway that I actually use dark brown for. Don't know where that came from, what happened to it. So I decided I needed a colorway that would go with it. So I created this colorway, grabbed a couple of dyes that went with it. This is called Kennebec. This, I'll give you the unrescaled first, starts with a pale light blue, kind of a baby blue. Then it goes into this turquoise color, which looks a little bit more blue on your screen. It's a little bit more green in real life. That's a little bit better indication of it here. Goes into this turquoise and then goes into this dark brown. And there's quite a bit of mixing here where it very gradually turns into the dark brown. This is what it looks like rescaled, and it didn't rescale terribly well. There's still chunks of color in there, but look at how pretty. I love this colorway. I am so much more pleased with this colorway than I thought I would be. There's no such thing as a mistake with dyeing. There's only happy accidents. That is called Kennebec, Kennebec. Kennebec is the name of both the county where I grew up in the state of Maine and the river that runs through that county. The Kennebec River is the river that I went whitewater rafting on with Katie and her honey this summer that I'm never going to do again. Yeah, Kennebec River. So if you see that word when you go to buy it in the shop and you're like, how do you say that? Kennebec. It's a Native American word. And then I had some of the Poetic dye left over. So I also did a Poetic in the single braid of mixed BFL. Now remember that the mixed BFL is the one that's 75% ecru and 25% brown BFL. So we've got these brown streaks that run through here and really add so much depth to the color. This does not at all look like Poetic from the Superwash Merino Tensile. It looks like a totally different animal. But I love it anyway. I think it's a beautiful, subtle, muted color. I think it would make a gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. And BFL is a very versatile fiber. You can spin it thick, you can spin it thin. It'll pretty much do what you want it to. Isn't that gorgeous? Just wear it just like this, just around your neck. Just be like, oh, I'm going to go to school. Okay, maybe not. But it is pretty. So, and I also have Poetic in worsted. I have 2 skeins of Poetic in worsted that will look very similar to the way it looks in the bulky. That's still wet, so it's still drying. But that's all I have so far. I will have more bulky. I'm going to see if before my husband and I go on our date this afternoon, if I can bang out like 4 pots of worsted and get that pretty much done. Worsted's very quick because they're mostly semi-solids. And they don't require me to skein them. They come in 2 skein hanks. So until I reskein it, I don't have to do anything with it. So it's pretty cool. I have a lot. You see that box? Wait, can you see the box behind me? Right there. That box is full of fiber and yarn. I gotta get on that. The next shop update will be December 8th, which is a Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That will be the next shop update. Plenty of time to get to you before Christmas. If you want to buy something and include it in a swap, I can, include a card, my business card or anything like that if you want, or I can even ship it right to them if you have their address. So feel free. I like to be the little gift. I like to be the mechanism by which gifts are given. It's fantastic. So, oh, the one thing that I can't show you that I dyed was I did create a self-striping skein of yarn. Yay! Highland Handmades self-striping! The way I wound it on the warping board, though, was a complete fail because it took me... I'd wound it into a center pull ball to wind onto the warping board, and that knotted up because I was hurrying. And then I dyed it fine, dried it fine, and then I went to reskein it. There was something about the way in which I had warped it that was wrong. And so it took me an hour and a half to reskein that yarn into a center pull ball. Nightmare. So I'm back to the drawing board on that. It took a couple of days for me to go through that. And the fail made me really upset because I don't like to fail at things. I like to be good at them the first time through. I know, right? So really, really affected my desire to work on the business and to dye. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But I was having a rough time. So I've put the warping board against the wall for right now. And it's going to have to wait probably until at least after this next update because I have a lot of crap. I have a lot of inventory I need to move out of here. So if you have a colorway or anything or a fiber that you'd like to see, please email me, heather@highlandhandmades.com or highlandhandmades@gmail.com. Either one will get to me. They go right to the same place. Message me on Ravelry. Message me as Boutros Babe on Ravelry. BOUTROSBABE on Ravelry. Highland Handmades does have an account, but I don't check it. It's just there to hold my yarn. So don't email me at Highland Handmades. But Boutros Babe is who I am on Ravelry and Plurk. So feel free to send me a message and let me know what you want to see, and I'll try and dye that up. Okay? All right. Moving on. I have 2 processes for you today. The first one is so simple it never occurred to me to talk about it, but is such a huge help for me that I can't not share it. This is my process. It's a stick. This is actually a spindle shaft from a spindle that was no good or broke or something. You can see there was a war right here. There's a glue spot right there. It's just a stick. What's the stick for, you say? The stick is for winding into a hank. I've seen people who have said that they really stink at winding things into hanks. You have your hank of yarn. How do you get it into the nice, tight, twisty thing? I make no claims to be as good as the volumizer people who have incredibly tight hanks, but here's what you do. You take your hank in your hand. You got one hand here. The other hand, this is my left hand. This is how I do it. If you are the other way, you may have to do it, but anyways, whichever way is comfortable for you. I have this stick also in the other side where my other hand would be. You can get your yarn a lot tighter if your hand isn't in on this side. So you just wind it as much as you can. Okay, once it's pretty tight over here, I'm going to start winding in the opposite direction. Oh, I'm going to throw it. Let's try that again, shall we? It doesn't always work, okay? Leave me alone. All right, sorry. Wind, wind, wind. Back up here and do this a little bit better. And then I'm going to wind in the other direction until it's super, super tight on my hand. And I'll actually pull my hand out and just hold it with my fingers here. So I have the little loop. And the more I wind, the tighter it's going to be. You want to keep tension on it so that it doesn't curl up on itself. And then when it gets to be like this, so you can see that it's kind of bumpy here, it's starting to cover over itself, hook it around your knee. I think maybe I can show you this. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to. Take the end with the stick here, pop it. Hang on. Look, it's really hard to show you this, okay? So here's your hand that had the hole and the end with the stick. I've got it around my knee. I take the stick, put it through the hole, and then I'm just going to take, this is the end with the stick, this is the end of my hand, and I'm just going to pull it over and then pull that stick through so that now the piece that was in my hand is here and the one with the stick is coming up through it. Pull the stick out. Here's my end. Okay, here's the piece that had the stick on it I've got in my fingers, and here's the end that was around my knee, and I just let it curl up, and then you just kind of adjust it so it's all nice and tight. Might not be my best example, but again, it's a process. So here's my skein now. It's nice and tight. It's not going anywhere, and it will live quite happily in somebody's stash from here. And especially when I'm photographing and stuff, I'll tuck the loose end bits where I've tied things off. Just tuck them in there. No one will see them when you photograph it. So yeah. Pretty simple. Again, so simple it never occurred to me that somebody might not know how to do that. It's a stick. You can get, I mean, it's just a dowel. You can get them anywhere. You can use an ink pen or a marker or something else that's smooth. A pencil would probably work great. It's up to you. Try it, see if you like it. So, the other process I wanted to talk about was, what do you do when you lose your dyeing mojo? That happened to me this week. I did not want to dye. I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to open the box. I didn't want to deal with the fiber. I just didn't want to. Now, part of that was because I'd experienced that fail with the sock yarn, the self-striping. And part of that, I'm sure, was because I just spent 5 wonderful days at home, and I didn't want to come home here, come down to the apartment and work. I was bummed. I missed my husband and kittens and my dog, and I just wanted to sit here and be grumpy. But I can't run a business if I'm just sitting here being grumpy. So the first step in that process was to figure out what I didn't want to do. Did I not want to skein off of the cones? Did I not want to dye, mix dye? Did I not want to cook it? Did I not want to... What was it I didn't want to do? What it really boiled down to was I didn't want to divide up skeins. I didn't want to use the skein winder and have to tie them off and do all that. That was what was bugging me. I didn't want to take the big, round, huge ball of fiber and divide off the 4 ounces. I didn't want to do that. So what I did was, once I had identified what it was that I didn't want to do, I did something that didn't require me to do that. The worsted weight comes in 250-gram hanks. So all I did was, I just dyed those. That was what I started with the worsted weight, was I dyed just that. I didn't have to divide it. I didn't have to skein it. I didn't have to do anything with it. You throw it in the bowl with water on it, and then you put it in the pan and you just squirt dye all over it. That at least got me started, so that then I was like, oh, I can do something else. Oh, I want to do some bulky, but I don't have any bulky skeins, so I might as well skein some bulky. And that was what my entry was. It kind of got me over myself. Sometimes if I don't want to mix the dye, I have three different dye companies that I use, and if I don't want to do that, then I will stick to simple, like, one dye company, and I will do only the ones that I did with just this dye company, or I will do semi-solids, which is you pour it in the pot, put the yarn in, pour some more in a pot, and call it good. It's less energy consuming. So I guess the process is, if you're losing your mojo, identify what you don't want to do and don't do it. I also will get inspiration I have a hard time sometimes dyeing the same colorways over and over again. I've dyed Poetic a lot. It was the same thing that happened to me when I dyed the Challenging. I just didn't want it anymore. And to make myself do it was a struggle. So what I did was I sat down with some Pinterest and some other things on the web, and I just looked for good colorways and said, oh, I like this picture. What are the colors in it? Doing new colorways like this is energizing to me. It gives me energy, makes me happy, makes me want to do it. So sometimes you just have to do new colorways. Okay. So I do use Pinterest definitely for inspiration and things like that. So. Okay. Growth. Not much in growth this week. Things are still going so well. I can't. I pinch myself quite often. I did stop at my local yarn store down here this week. There Shirley's Yarn and Gift Shop in Hancock, and she had expressed interest in learning to spin on a spindle. And so I brought her one of our spindles and just a little sample of fiber and said, here you go. You know, Merry Christmas, have some fun. Just because I knew she'd wanted to and because I want to be in her good graces. I'm really far away, sorry. Come a little closer. I wanted to be in her good graces and I'd like to teach. I'd like to have them carry my stuff, but I'm not going to just ask because it's too easy for them to say no. I'm going to want them to want me to teach, and I want them to want to carry my fibers and yarns and spindles. So I just gave her the spindle, and I gave her, I was like, do you know how to spin? She's like, no, I don't. I said, all right, let's go. So we went down to the table and chairs down in the shop a little bit, and I gave her a quick little mini lesson on how to spin and got her going and told her I'd check in with her on Monday. So if it happens, if stuff comes from it, great. If not, I've enabled I've helped another knitter become a spinner. We'll see what comes from it, I guess. She did give me the Cascade that I bought. I didn't buy it. She gave it to me. She said I could just have it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to just take this. She's like, oh, yes, you are. You are going to take it, and you're going to put your name into the bucket for the drawing this month. And I was like, okay, then. So it was a trade. It was a barter. But that made me happy. So that's growth. Let me flip over to Grabby Hands really quick. This is going to be a quick episode. I'm happy. I have two things for Grabby Hands this week. The first one is the Yarn Harlots blog. I, a couple of weeks ago, had the bright idea that I was going to put together a list of things that you should buy your knitter friends for Christmas. Especially, I was going to put it on the Highland Handmades blog and say, all of you guys as my customers and who are my friends on Plurk and all that, give this blog post to your husband. It will all be hyperlinked and be ready to go. I thought that was so clever. And then on December 1st, the Yarn Harlot posted her blog. And she's going to have not one, but 25 lists of awesome knit things to give to your loved ones, your knitting loved ones this Christmas. The Yarn Harlot is awesome. 25 beats one. There's my heat, sorry. And holy crap. Like, why did I... Stop. So, the Yarn Harlot has had 3 days so far of lists of cool gifts that you can buy your knitter loved ones. And she's, of course, funny and witty, and she does a much better job than I ever could. So that's my first Grabby Hands. Go to her website. It is www.yarnharlot, HARLOT.ca. It's a Canadian blog, so it's not .com, it's .ca. And if you don't find anything that you'd like to buy on there, you can always make a donation to the Doctors Without Borders, Knitters Without Borders icon. Excuse me. On the right of her blog, there's a link there. That's the cause that she donates to and she supports, and it's a great cause, so you can always do that. The second Grabby Hands, I have to be honest, I did not buy. I won a free skein of sock yarn from Ethereal Fibers. She's got the best logo. It's a dandelion, like a dandelion that's gone to seed, and there's dew all over it. It's the most beautiful picture. Ethereal Fibers is one of the new indie dyers that's out in the world. She's on Plurk. She's awesome. She's a fantastic personality, very friendly, very outgoing, does a lot of contests, a lot of giveaways and stuff. And I won a skein of yarn of my choice. And I chose, she had done a colorway called Joule, Joule, and I really liked it, and I asked her to dye me that, and she said she would. So this is actually, I won the yarn because I was the 100th member of her group. I did not know that I was doing that. I just joined so I could, see cool stuff. I was the 100th member, so she dyed up for me this colorway called Joule. This is, it says supernal sock. 80-20 superwash merino and nylon. So it's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. This is the yarn. So pretty. It's this deep, beautiful, kind of almost aubergine mahogany maroon, and then lightens up into this rose, dusky mauve, and then this bright pop of gold. Love it. Love it so, so much. And this is, it's a 2-ply sock yarn. It will probably not be socks, just because I don't know about 2-ply yarns and socks, and it's kind of too soft for something. It's squishy. It's like super squish, super squishy. It may become, it's 400 yards. It may become a short hitchhiker or some other chalette, or maybe like elbow length fingerless mitt, something like that. I can't. This is what happens when you don't use the stick. It looks like crap. Sorry. Anyways, thank you, Kelly. That was fantastic. Thank you very much, Ethereal Fibers. I'm super lucky. I get a lot of really great yarn from friends. Last thing I talked about a couple podcasts ago was that I was doing the shred 20 times in 21 days in order to win the skein of Wollmeise, and I did it. 3 of those days, I had to do it twice in a day because I had missed a day. So I do it 20 times in 21 days. So if I missed a day, I had to do it twice the next day. Holy crap, that kills. But I did do it. I successfully completed 20 shreds in 21 days. And so Friday, yesterday, I managed to catch the Wollmeise update from Wollmeise, not from the Loopy U, but from the actual site, and scored not 1, but 2 skeins of Wollmeise. I got the 80-20 twin were different grab bag. It's 2 skeins of yarn. The colorway just says mixed, so who knows what they'll be. I know that the colors that she dyed this week were, there was a red, there was a green, nope, there was a red, there was a purple, rot, lilac, and turquoise. So I'm expecting the weird difference to be one of those colors, either a red, a purple, or a, what did I just say? Red, purple, and turquoise. So, I don't care. I don't care what it is. I have Wollmeise. Yay! I'm so excited. I can't wait to knit it up. Makes me happy. So, that's what I have this week. Very last thing I want to say is a quick thank you and a shout out. I have 2 people to thank this week. Debbie Lynn, who gave me a generous podcast donation this week on Thanksgiving, actually. She said, hey, happy Thanksgiving. Love your podcast. Thanks so much. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Debbie Lynn. I appreciate it. And the other was, oh crap, I don't remember her name. Somebody brand new to me, somebody I had not actually heard from before. I got a free pattern last night. Totally unsuspecting, didn't even realize it. She's Knit Psycho on Rav, sent me a lovely pattern from my Ravelry wishlist queue and just said, happy Podcaster Appreciation Day. She's like, I don't know if that's a thing, but I'm spreading some random love. So thank you very much, Knit Psycho. I really appreciate that pattern. It's a lovely, lovely Brooklyn tweed pattern. I heart Brooklyn tweed. If there's no such thing as a Podcaster Appreciation Day, fellow podcasters, I think we should start one. I am just saying because it feels awesome. So thank you very much to both of those. Now the shout out is to the L's. I have several friends who have L's in either their Rav names or their real names who've had kind of a rough couple of weeks. I don't want to name names because they might not want me to share that information, but those of you who, these are people, dear friends of mine who've had a rough time, it's time for you to have some good stuff happen to you. You deserve to have some good days. You deserve to have some happiness. So I'm wishing you all the love and happiness I can possibly send your way. So that's all I have this week, everybody. Thank you for being patient with me while I was kind of late on getting this podcast up, but I will be back on schedule next Wednesday, and I will have plenty of dyed things, hopefully, to show you. So until next week, guys, happy spinning and knitting, and thanks for tuning in.